I mean, I took that more as a challenge. I took that as a turning point to say, you know what, I am capable of doing this. I have the knowledge. I have the drive and desire and the want to make it happen. And I'm going to go out and prove them wrong.
From cornfields to high-rises, office to industrial, houses to hotels, and every other asset class in real estate, we cover the people, the projects, and the profit. Welcome to the Investing in Iowa Show. This show is for go-doers, action takers, and business owners. It's for people like you who are sick of Uncle Sam taking a huge bite of your apple. If you're looking to get ahead of what's taking place in Iowa, learn who is doing what, and how you can get in on the action, you're in the right place. Hosted by Neil Timmins, an Iowa native who has been involved in over $300 million in real estate right here in Iowa. Recording in studio from West Des Moines. Here's your host, Neil Timmins.
I've got Tyler Dingel here on the show. Tyler, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm excited you're here. Say, for the audience's sake, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
So Tyler Dingel, I am Executive Vice President at CBRE. I originally from a small town in north central Iowa, Rockford. So 3 small towns that make up our school district, which was Rockford, Marble Rock, or RRMR. Kind of a mouthful there, but I grew up in a small town, ag-based community like so many across the state. Graduated with 38, 39 people, something like that. So small town. From there, went to the University of Northern Iowa. Originally went there thinking I wanted to get into the golf industry at some level, whether that be playing or course pro type of a deal. The more I played and saw the people that were on the golf course on a daily basis enjoying golf and enjoying the sport was not the people that were working in the industry. Sure. It was your business professionals, whether that be real estate or attorneys or all across the board. Those were the people that were actually enjoying the game versus the ones that were out there working it. So I decided to pivot. I also realized I wasn't nearly as good at golf as I thought I was. And so I made a change and went into a college of business. And a friend of mine was part of a group called Row Epsilon, which is a real estate club across the country, but a very strong club at UNI. And so I went to a Row Epsilon meeting, and it was certainly appealing. Job opportunity standpoint, sure. Career standpoint, investment standpoint, a number of different things. And gave me some good direction. Decided to pursue a double major in finance and real estate through the university. So they have a great program up there, great instructors over the years. Just learned a lot, and a lot of what I learned. I think what was cool about my education at UNI is a lot of what I learned day in and day out I still use today.
Really,
and I don't think there's a lot of people that say I don't hardly use anything I learned.
Correct,
the deal, and so I use it, like I said, almost every day.
I think that's one of the largest criticisms, 2 large criticisms of college is largely the lack of direct applicability of what you learn to the job. And then probably as a result, that the value gap is challenging.
Yes.
What the cost of the input is today.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get out of college, you got this double major. What do you do?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I did a nice job of helping set up like internships and stuff. Through the program as well. So I actually did 3 different internships to try and figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, right? So my first one was with Principal Financial Group, and I was on the underwriting debt side. That's a 7-month internship. They call it co-op, but basically you take a semester off of school, you get college course credit for the time that you're working, but you get better than just a quick summer internship and just a real glance at what happens. You really kind of dig in a little bit and really learn the business and add some value to the employer as well. So I did that for 7 months. And then the following summer, I did a internship at a company called Real Estate Research Corporation, or RERC. They're based out of Chicago, but have an office in Waverly. That was close by. I was able to stay on campus and do that one. And then my senior year, I decided to do an internship with CBRE and figure out what brokerage was all about, if it was something that I wanted to pursue or something that I thought I could be successful in. And after sitting down and weighing the pros and cons of each decision, I had the opportunity either to go to Principal or to go with CBRE. And I decided, I was used to being a broke college kid that didn't need much to survive. And if I was going to try and do brokerage, which, a lot of people, when you start in brokerage, it's a tough road to hoe out of the gate. If I was going to do that, I wanted to do it while I was young and didn't have a wife and kids to support and things like that. So I took the leap and joined CBRE right out of college, and here we are almost 20 years later.
You had to be entrepreneurially inclined when coming out of college, right? Probably in your DNA somewhere in your background growing up. or the option coming out of college to be go to work for principal with a paycheck, or it's on your shoulders at the end of the day. There may be something on the front end, but at the end of the day, it's going to be feast or famine.
Yeah.
Go in the sales world. Is there something in your background, something growing up, something from that world that helped spark that confidence, that the resilience that ultimately is required to be inside of the sales role in this business?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Looking back, growing up, I mean, I've always said I've had two real jobs in my life, and that doesn't include all of the farm jobs that I had growing up. You grow up in an ag community, and whether it was working in the hog confinement or picking up rock or detasseling, all those fun ag jobs that come along with that, I did all of those. But the two industries that I have the most experience in are the restaurant industry and the real estate industry. When I was 14 years old, I hopped on my bike on my birthday, and rode down to the local pizza corral and put in my job application. You had to be 14 to apply. And so on my birthday, I did that. That was my first real job, I guess, so to speak. And later that transitioned into a bartending serving role at a restaurant called Chandler's in Mason City, which is 15 miles from Rockford, and then into Pepper's sports bar in Cedar Falls, where I was a bartender server all the way through college. Nothing on the sales side that leans to that. I can tell you I was a heck of a salesman when it came to like the local fundraisers, where you went door to door with your paper pamphlet and you're selling popcorn or whatever it might be to raise money for a band or for a choir trip, for an athletic event or whatever. I look forward to those, and I always wanted to be the top producer when it came to those type of deals. But no, I think there's nothing that really ties directly back into taking that risk. I mean, I was involved in a lot of athletics growing up. In a small town, you did everything. So I played football, I played basketball, played golf in the spring, and played baseball in the summer. And so I think there was a competitive edge that came along with that. I had a lot of great friends in my class that were, we were fortunate enough to have some pretty good teams growing up, and we pushed each other. And I think that probably played into it a little bit as well.
So you joined CBRE, you're going to get you're in sales. Talk to me, the first 1, 2, 3 years. What was that like very early on?
I should back up to the previous question as I think about it. I talked about, some of my friends, that competitive nature. I'm the youngest of 4 boys.
Okay.
So I have 3 older brothers. So when you have to learn to become good at sales when you're the youngest of 4 boys, whether it's, trying to get new pair of shoes, or you're trying to get time on the Nintendo, or whatever it might be. I was always competing with them for some of that time. So that could have played into it as well.
That's interesting. I'm the eldest of 4.
Okay.
4 boys. And so I understand everybody 2 years apart. I understand a very competitive household.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you join CBRE. It's early on in your career. What are those first few years like?
Very tough. A lot of what I thought it would be. You mentioned Principal, and they're a great company, and they have, for a kid coming out of college, a great opportunity to have a salary and benefits and all that fun stuff. And you go into brokerage and you don't have any of that, and it's eat what you kill. And so it was really tough getting started. I didn't have any connections really in Des Moines. I didn't have any family or close friends or anything like that was tying me or brought me to Des Moines. So I was really just kind of on my own to get out and start building relationships. And so it definitely took time to build up that business. And one of the fun things I like to do with some of the younger guys that come into the business, and some of the younger brokers on my team, is they'll come in and say, how did you get started, or where did you go? And at that time, Kyle Gamble, who was managing our office, he gave me a phone and a phone book, and you just picked out a market segment. It could be chiropractors, it could be laundromats, or dry cleaners, whatever it is, and you just start going down the list, and you have a space that might fit one of those, and you start calling and figure out who needs space. But I used to have a yellow legal pad like you have right there in front of you. Yeah. And I would write down every business and the number, the person I was calling, whoever was running that business. And then I would take notes as I had that phone call. And they might say, hey, we're doing just fine. We just signed a 5-year renewal and we've got plenty of space. That'd be great. How many square feet are you in? Well, we're in 2,500 feet. Fantastic. If you ever need more space or looking for a second location, please let me know. And then I'd make a note of that they had 5 years left in their lease. Yep. So in 3 years, I was calling them again. I'd have within my contacts database, I would put those notes into detail, and it would pop up a reminder that XYZ company has a lease up in 2 years. And so that would prompt me to call them, and just trying to build my personal brand that way, that I was somebody that paid attention to details and cared about their business and and how I could add value to their business. And I think that certainly helped out and been a benefit to my career over the years.
What was your very first transaction?
My first transaction was, I actually did a deal during my internship with CBRE. It was a Ghazali's Mediterranean Grill off 60th and Ashworth. I worked with Kent York on that deal. Okay. It was a little small restaurant space. And it was kind of cool. I got, I had an hourly base with CB during my internship, and it wasn't a lot of money, but that wasn't the intent or the point of it, right? It's to learn that business, and if it's something you want to do the rest of your life. But I got Kent split that fee with me, and so I went back to college and I got my first commission check, and I think it was like $1,200 or something like that. But at that time, that was a nice little bump, and I thought, this brokerage thing is kind of cool. You can make some money doing this. So yeah, that was my first deal.
Tell me about your most recent transaction, and then we're going to come and work in the middle. Tell me about the most recent one.
Boy, size-wise, I mean...
Yeah, just tell me whatever you can about the most recent one that closed, so you can tell me some details. Yeah, size-wise, what is it?
So we're doing, as we were talking a little bit, I have we have a 7-person team at CBRE. So we have a lot of mouths to feed, but we're averaging a little over 100 transactions a year right now. So we're seeing 10 deals a month, roughly 9-10 deals a month. So it's hard, we probably had one close this week that somebody on the team may have led that I'm not thinking of. But I'll go back to one that closed within the last couple of months, because it was a fun deal to work on, and I think a good example of where the market, where the business can go. But Hubble Realty developed a industrial building up in Ankeny off of 4 Mile. So it was a 147,000 square foot high cube warehouse building. Another industrial team within CBRE, Chris Pendroy and Marty Herman, were able to get that fully leased to Amazon for a fulfillment center. And so Hubble came to us. We've sold deals like that for them over the years, and even with Amazon specifically. So that was a deal we were able to take to market. It had a 10-year triple net lease with a credit tenant of Amazon, a AA- credit, and 10 years of term, which is pretty attractive to a lot of investors out there. And so we do a global marketing pitch on an asset of that caliber. And we were able to identify a company out of Sacramento, California, called Buzz Oats. And they were fantastic to work with. We still stay in contact with them. It's been a lot of fun to get to know those guys, but that was a fun deal. It was a pretty good size transaction. It was an $18.5 million sale. It was a nice return for Hubble and for their investors, and it was a nice asset for Buzz Oats to put in their portfolio.
Let's contrast that between where you started and where you're at today, right? There's a lot of things that had to happen over the year, certainly in the industry and within yourself to get to the spot you're at today. So walk me through that first decade. When did things really start to churn for you to feel like, all right, I got my legs? I feel like this is a pretty good home. I'm in this business. Never have that thought of maybe this isn't for me, as so many of us do in the first year. When the check just doesn't come in.
Yep. I'll dive into a little story for you, and then get to your core question. But you mentioned that early time in your career where you're not sure if you're going to make it or whatnot. I remember distinctly a trip that I made up to Marion, Iowa, was selling I think it was a 14 or 16 plex apartment unit, and small deal up in small town, northern Iowa. And we were able to get the transaction done. It took a lot of time and effort and energy to get it done, but we were able to get it done. But I remember on the ride home, I had another broker in the car with me, and we were talking a little bit. This was probably 9 months into the business, and he looked over and he said, I would tell you this might not be the right business for you. If I was your dad, I would say that corporate real estate route may be the better path for you. And so at that point, it was you're already questioning yourself: can I do this? Can I make this work? And then you have somebody in the industry that's successful and been there and done that tell you that put some additional doubt in there. I mean, I took that more as a challenge. I took that as a turning point to say, I am capable of doing this. I have the knowledge. I have the drive and the desire and the want to make it happen. And I'm going to go out and prove them wrong. And so it certainly wasn't immediately after that things started to roll, but that that definitely lit a fire. I started to work with multiple brokers in our office. Heath Bullock, Tom DeWay, Jeff Spence, several of those guys. Started working with Todd Malang on a handful of deals as well. And Todd and I worked very well together. And he eventually offered me an opportunity to join him as a business partner. And that was certainly attractive to me. I had a lot of respect for Todd, and he was very well respected in our industry overall. And I'd always said, I didn't want to go work for somebody, but I would work with them if I could be a partner. And that partnership was certainly a large percentage that went to Todd and a very small percentage that went to me in the beginning. But I was okay with that, because we both had time and money and things at risk with each deal. And when he made money, I made money, and the more money I could bring in and make him, the more money I would make on the back end as well. And so we started to work together. That was probably the beginning of our partnership, and we still work together today. Todd's been an incredible mentor for me, and that's probably was a catalyst to building the team that we have today. At that time, it was Todd, myself, and then Michelle Drummer, who is kind of Todd's right hand, and she still works with him today as well. But we've added several along the way and grown the team from there.
What year was that?
That would have been probably late 2006 when we officially partnered up. We had worked on some listings and things together.
So for you, a couple of years into the business.
About 2 years into the business.
Yeah. A number of partnerships out there, two folks come together, 1 + 1 = 3. For some, 1 + 1 does not even equal 2.
Yeah.
How is it that you guys are able to work together in such a manner to create a synergistic relationship?
I love that word synergistic, because that's my team probably makes fun of me, but I named our team Synergy. We used to just be Team Malang, but we had to go away from that as we grew and things. So I went with Team Synergy, because exactly to your point is the definition of synergy is the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. And so that's exactly it, is trying to find somebody that complements what you do. Todd and I have a lot of strengths that overlap each other, but we have some where his weaknesses might be something where I'm very strong, and vice versa. And that's where I think he and I were able to work so well together. We were alike in so many ways, how we grew up, small town families, things like that. But we were different enough that we could balance each other out on certain things. And that's really been the key driver, I think, in our overall team, whether it be Riley Hogan or Aiden Nadarovich or Blake Bogenreef, Ben Probst. All of those guys are very similar to in a number of different ways, but very different in others. I look at a guy like Riley, and the way that he and I do business is so different. He is very creative and very good at seeing, as they say, working outside the box, seeing outside the box. Sometimes we say he's so far outside the box, he can't see where the box is at. But that helps, because I don't have that aspect is not as strong for me. And I'm very much more, I like to think things to be organized. I'm very analytical. I love the spreadsheets and the numbers. And to me, that's a lot of deals. It comes down to numbers and value and what is the real cost of the space? What does it do for our employees, for our companies? And how does that drive my bottom line? Those are the things I really like to dig into. And so for a guy like Riley and I to balance each other out, he's going to see things that I would never see or think of. And I do the same for him. So that's what's really been a lot of fun in growing our team and building our business and our team to where we're at today.
Started with three of you, right?
Yep.
From the beginning, and you evolved and grew over the years. That next addition to the team, what was that like? When did that occur? And I guess how did you end up trying to figure out where does everybody fit? How does this puzzle ultimately come together and then allow you to add additional people and to grow?
Yeah, that's the hardest part of having the team structure, is figuring out how those pieces go together. We live in a world or in an industry where you're self-employed, right? You're your own boss, and again, we talked about your eat what you kill mentality. And when you join a team and form a team like that, you now have, somebody that you're accountable to outside of just yourself. And that pie is only so big, and you can only cut it up so many ways. So as that team grows, if you add a person, that's a piece of the pie that you have to split up. And figuring out how to split that is challenging. In our team, we meet, typically, obviously we meet on a weekly basis, but we try to sit down twice a year and look at our splits and say, okay, how do we feel everybody is performing? What value is everybody bringing to the table? And you have to have some hard conversations to tell a guy like Todd, who really kind of started this thing and has been in real estate for a long time and is certainly very valuable, to tell him that, hey, we need to take your split down a little bit, because you're not as active as you used to be, and we've got some young guys that we need to include in that as well. So it's hard conversations, but we have become very much like a family, as cliche as that is to say when you're talking about a team, but it is every bit of that. There are times where we want to slam the door and yell at each other and fight each other like I did with my brothers growing up. And there's times that we kick back and laugh and joke and have a great time. But I think what's special about our team is that that everybody truly sees each other as family, and we all want the best for each other. And that's helped us get through some of those harder conversations. And then, as a senior guy, Todd has gone through this, and I'm going through this now. Is I'm making an investment in our younger brokers where I'm giving up part of fees on deals that I may be leaving that money on the table today on a deal, but I'm investing in the future of our team and our business by giving some of that fee to a younger broker on the team. And, they certainly, the younger brokers certainly provide value, but it's just trying to figure out how do you get them enough compensation so that they stay motivated and they stay hungry, but they also feel validated and they feel compensated well, appreciated for the value that they bring. And so, I wish I
can imagine
could say it's
balancing act.
Yeah. It's tough, but we make it work.
Hey, Iowa investors, this is Ava Baukamp, Chief of Staff at Legacy Impact Investors. Have you thought about adding real estate to your portfolio but don't have the time or desire to play landlord? At Legacy Impact Investors, we do the heavy lifting. Our team finds the deals, manages the properties, and handles all the day-to-day operations. Our select group of qualified investors co-invest with us, gaining ownership equity without opening a tenant email or responding to a maintenance call. They just share in the income, appreciation, and tax benefits. These opportunities aren't for everyone. They are for qualified, accredited investors only. If you want to learn more, please visit LegacyImpactInvestors.com to apply.
At some point of your career, this whole business of being an agent, being a broker, works out. You obviously make some dollars and cents. The dollars got to go to work someplace. And you decide, I'm going to buy an investment property. I'm going to invest in what I know. Tell me about the very first property that you invested in.
Yeah, that's a fun story. So the first deal I bought, and God bless Todd, he went along with me on this one. It was a small deal. We paid $100,000 for a fourplex off of 38th Street in Des Moines.
Few years back, I imagine at those prices.
Yes. Yep. 25,000 a unit. And it was Todd, myself, and then my brother actually invested in it. My oldest brother invested with us as well. But it wasn't an investment so much to, hey, this is going to be a great return, and I want my first investment to be a great return. It was, I'm going to invest in this deal so I can learn what I don't know. And if I mess this thing up at $100,000, it's not going to hurt any of us too bad, and I'm going to learn from it and keep going. That's what we did. I managed the thing. I mean, I would take my mower and put it in the back of my truck, drive over to the place and mow it because I couldn't get my tenants. Hey, I'll give you $40 off your rent to mow the lawn. Nah, I don't want to do that. So I wasn't going to pay somebody to do it, so I put the mower in the back of my truck. I go over there and mow the lawn and pick up the trash and do those things. And the number of calls I got to my sink is leaking to, we had a broken pipe at one point. A lot of those hard lessons learned, they in life you're paid with two coins. One is money and one is experience. Yes. And this was much more of the experience payment on this deal. And it turned out to be a decent investment. I mean, we made a decent return on it, but it was the value I got out of it from a learning standpoint was far more than anything I got from a financial perspective for it. And one thing I learned is if I'm ever going to own multifamily, I'm going to own 100 units and not 4 units because I do not want to manage it myself. That is tough work and something that I'd rather have somebody else handling that.
Yeah, that's a fun takeaway from the investor hat on. Did you learn something through that experience that helped you become a better advisor in your role as a broker?
Yeah, I think, one thing that has changed for me over the years as a broker is, I mentioned I've always been analytical and I've always been digging into the numbers in the spreadsheets. And I was always looking at them from an outside view and what that owner might want to see or might be important to them. I would say I've transitioned now to anytime I look at a deal, I look at it as, if I own this deal, if I own this real estate, what would I do with it? And that's how I advise my clients now is I put myself in their shoes, and I can relate to it. I've been there. I've had that experience. So I can put myself in their shoes and relate to what the questions that they're asking themselves and the answers that they want to see. And so I do think that's been a big benefit, knowing or seeing a deal both from a broker side and investor and owner side.
I'm curious about what that line is and or what asset class you invest in. A lot of people, want to specialize in the exact that, I only own multifamily. A number of people, want to really specialize in Des Moines. And what I mean by that is they want a multitude of asset classes because you can understand the players and the things that all are here, but you're going to really refine yourself and define yourself geographically speaking to go, I understand this market inside and out, know how to get things done. Where do you fall?
Yeah, I'm a little all over the board on that. I always look at my investing on the real estate side. For me, I've always been much more conservative, and which is odd because what I decided to do for a living is not a very conservative path. Right. But I figure I take enough risk with my job and not having a steady income or any of those things that I have to have some stability somewhere. But so I've been pretty conservative on the investment side, and I try to stick to markets that I know, and asset classes that I know. And if I don't know, then I rely heavily on somebody that I know personally, that I trust personally, that does know that asset class. So I've owned everything from office to retail, industrial, land. I've invested with individual that's very strong on the farm side with Steve Brewer with People's Company. That's a segment where I knew the farm industry growing up, but I don't know the values of it. I don't know how that plays into what a piece of ag ground is worth, but that's his expertise. And I know Steve and I trust Steve. And so when he tells me, hey, this is a good deal to look at, then that's certainly something I'll look at. But on the commercial side, it's really been markets that I have a good knowledge and understanding in. So, Todd and I have partnered on a number of deals, but, Roca downtown is one that we bought together that kind of blended in my two industries I work in. I've worked in real estate and restaurant business, which is the restaurant business is not for the faint of heart, but it's gone well. We just hit our 10-year.
Are you in both the real estate and the operating business? Okay.
Yeah. So that was a real estate play with that was the backstop, right? We felt good about the real estate and the value of the real estate. And we looked at the restaurant saying, hey, we're going to give this a shot because we think we've got a chef that we really like. We have an idea that we really like. But my safety net on that conservative side is if it doesn't work, if we can't make the restaurant work, we can lease this out to somebody and it's still a good investment. It's still a good hold. So that was the idea there. We opened up Roca. It was a fun project. That we got to work on, and we just hit our 10-year anniversary. So far, so good. So that deal, Todd and I bought the former Social Club, 900 Mulberry recently. It might have been 2 years ago that we bought that together. Industrial deal. I've done some retail development work. So just kind of all over the board, trying to stay diversified a little bit, not sink too much into one specific asset class, but majority of the assets that I own are here in Des Moines, unless it's the farm ground aspect. I've done a couple of deals, both in the state and outside of the state, and then I also was very fortunate, a few years back to buy my family farm, some ground that my grandparents purchased originally in the 50s, and my parents lived. That's actually where I was born. My parents lived on the acreage and farmed that. My brothers and I were all born there. We were wiped out in the 80s with a lot of people during the farm crisis, and we couldn't make it work. And so we had to leave the farm, and Dad went from there and got into agricultural lending. And so we had to leave Lake Park at that point. But my parents maintained ownership of the ground. My grandparents, maintained ownership of the ground and rented it out over the years. And when Grandma passed, there was an opportunity there for me to buy that original homestead and that original site. And so someday I will be at the state fair with my kids to celebrate our century farm. So that was a fun opportunity for me, and probably not the greatest return on investment of any of the deals I've done, but from a what matters perspective, it was a fun deal to be involved with.
From that very first fourplex to today, how have you had change, and how have you changed as an investor?
Well, the deal sizes have definitely gotten larger.
Has that made it easier?
It probably does make it a little bit easier. It's never easy, but when you're dealing in a smaller price range like that, there's so many other players in that market, and you're having to do the same level of work, right? You still have closing docs, you still have banking that has to be done, you still have
inputs are the same.
Yeah, everything's the same, but your returns are going to be a lot smaller just on a scale basis on a 100,000 square foot fourplex than it would be on a $10 million, apartment complex.
Right.
You just, like you said, the inputs are going to be the inputs, and when you can spread that cost out over a larger investment, then your returns certainly look a lot. So, really, I think I still look at deals very much the same. When I look at deals, and this is probably a blessing and a curse, right? There's probably deals where I've really missed that were home runs with huge upside. But when I look at a deal, the first thing that I'm looking at is what's my worst case scenario.
I'm laughing.
I didn't
cut the same way.
Yeah. I didn't work for, almost 20 years in brokerage to build my business and my portfolio to where it's at today to have a deal that could be a home run, wipe that all out.
Correct.
And so I'm looking at, what's my worst case? What's my downside on this thing? And if I'm comfortable that the downside isn't going to be something that is too painful for me and there's a decent upside, then it's a deal that I would certainly take a run at.
I just finished Sam Zell's autobiography.
Yeah.
And that it's right there, exactly as you just described, laid out. Him saying the exact same thing.
Well, he's a lot smarter than I am.
Always going to the risk first. What's my downside? Yeah. As an agent, as a broker, coming in, working really for yourself as an individual today to becoming a team leader, somebody who's, as you said, you now are responsible and accountable to the balance of the team. How have you had to evolve? What skills or what traits have you had to acquire over the years to live in the role you live in today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the people management side of it. And, we are a 7-person brokerage team is a very large brokerage,
yes,
from a broker standpoint, but it's very small in the world of if you owned a company and you had 7 employees, it's a very small company, right? So there's a lot of people that have far more responsibility and people that whether that's report to them or people that they're responsible for or whatnot. So I do take that into account. I certainly don't have it too bad, but just trying to look at whether it be especially when we talk about splits and things like that. You're looking at our business and the value that each person provides to that business and what their percentage of the fees should be on deals, is trying to look at it from their perspective as well as outside of just of your own. I mean, I think that's very challenging to do. As human nature is, we're going to look at what I bring to the table, what value I drive to the team, and what I'm able to, what's my worth. That's a lot easier for people to define because intrinsically the blood, sweat, tears, hours that you put into that business. And I might, even though I work with that person on a daily basis, I don't know everything that they're putting into the business. I mean, I have a sense, right? But everybody's in a different spot, in a different scenario. Everybody has different circumstances and stuff that they're dealing with outside of work and outside of our business. They're just trying to bring that human element in and be compassionate and trying to be very understanding of everybody's scenarios. Something that I've definitely had to build on. When it was just Todd and I, and Todd was the lead broker on it. I didn't have to worry about that stuff. All I had to do was motivate myself and make sure I was getting my stuff done, and the rest of it kind of took care of itself. And I've had to definitely grow those people skills and some of those things that are important when you get into that type of a lead role.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of work and a lot of effort that goes into living in the role you live in. It is a lot, as you said. It's a lot of people work to be able to put that whole thing together.
Yeah.
If you're a house flipper, execute the burst strategy or do double closings and are in need of money, Little Guy Loans is your go-to lender here in the Des Moines area. Time is money. Loan approvals in 24 hours. Closings in 5 days. Little Guy Loans was founded by Neil Timmins, an investor just like you. Since he has been in over 10,000 homes in Des Moines, there's never an appraisal. Houses, multifamily, and commercial property loans up to $1 million. Check out www.littleguyloans.com.
Well, I understand. Congratulations, Aurora. You've just been named recently to the Midwest Real Estate Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It makes me sound really old. I feel like when you talk about Hall of Fame.
Hey, it's not a lifetime achievement award.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good point. No, it's it's great. We've talked about it a lot today, but it's recognition of what the team has been able to accomplish. And I'm very, very fortunate with the people that I've been able to surround myself with, starting with Todd early in the career and the guys and gals that we've added over the years. It really is a team effort and something that I've been fortunate just to be a part of it. And I look forward to seeing what some of our younger brokers, where they take it from here. Yeah. At some point, they're going to say, "Hey, it's time for you to step aside and let us run with this thing, and you add what value you can from the sidelines and let them run." So we'll see. I don't know when that day will come. That's not coming anytime soon. But that's the other aspect of the team is, at some point, my younger brokers want to be that team lead too. And I want that for them, and so I want to help guide them and give them as much advice and direction as I can to help them get into that spot. And that includes me at some point, stepping away from that lead role and letting somebody else step into that role.
Well, I think that's the pinnacle of success there is when a definition, probably when a good leader creates other leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's great, Mike. Well, hats off to you, Frank. Congratulations for that award. Are you ready for the final 3 questions?
Yes.
If you had one piece of advice for your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
It's a good question. So we've touched on this a little bit today, but I was just reminded I was having a conversation just the other day over a cup of coffee with a young broker, and I was talking about a piece of art that I came across. I'm not a big art guy. I think art's cool. It's great. But I don't know much about it, right? I don't own much art. But there was a piece that I saw one time that I thought was really, really cool. And it was the concept of a self-made man. And it's a bronze statue where the top half is just a statue of a man with a chisel and a hammer. And the bottom half is a solid block of bronze. Yeah. And the idea is creating himself. He's becoming self-made. He's chiseling away and creating the person that he is. And I always thought that was so cool. And I thought, man, I came to Des Moines and I didn't have any family or any ties or anything. So, I'm going to become this self-made man. And I still think it's a cool piece of art, but it is incorrect in some big ways. And if I could go back and recreate that same piece, you'd still have the main person with a chisel and the hammer working away, but you'd have a dozen other people standing around chiseling away at it at the same time. And that's the biggest takeaway is the people that you surround yourself with are the people that make you who you are. There may be somebody out there that's completely self-made, but I look at it as, I may have not had a family member in the business, but Todd became that for me. I found mentors like Todd and Kyle Gamble and others. My family, my parents, my brothers are all part of creating the person that I am today, the person that I become. And that's very important, I think, for that younger person or somebody getting started in a brokerage is surround yourself with great mentors and great people and learn from them. And it's going to make things so much easier for you.
2 books that changed your life.
Man, Master Key to Riches, Napoleon Hill, that you started to talk about the pinnacle of success and he has a quote in that book that's one of my favorites. And he says, those that reach the pinnacle of success, or it says the opulence of success, which is essentially the same thing. Those that reach the pinnacle of success do it with 2 outstretched hands, one reaching up to those who already summited and one reaching down to those to help those still climbing behind them. That's one that's always stuck with me. I think it's fantastic. Another one I would say outside of the business world, I would say Fearless is another good one. Fearless is by Adam Brown, or about Adam Brown. And then another one would be Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Those are both Navy SEAL Services related books that, again, a lot about setting goals and making something more of yourself than facing that adversity and overcoming those challenges, and very inspirational from that standpoint. So I gave you 3, sorry.
Hey, listen, always delivering more value. If you were cast away on an island for 1 year, you could only get 3 pieces of data about your business each and every single month. What 3 things must you know every month to know how your business is running?
First one I would say is my pipeline. I don't know if that qualifies in your question or not.
Sure.
I'm talking more like...
you got a team, you got a pipeline? Yeah.
So we pay a lot of attention to the pipeline. My team probably gets annoyed as much as I talk about it, but just trying to understand, you're trying to forecast revenues just like any business, right? You've got revenues, you have expenses. You're trying to forecast revenues and know what's coming in. And so I spend a lot of time looking at our pipeline and trying to understand not only that, but having it in there, you help forecast it, but it also is a good check-in on where are we at with each deal. It's a good reminder of, hey, XYZ lease is out for signature. We haven't heard back on that in a few days. Let's follow up. So it's a good point of reference for me on understanding where we're at with the deal. Making sure that we're guiding it along throughout the process. I do pay attention to the business record daily. You said monthly though?
I'll let you roll it up.
Okay. All right. So the business record, I do pay attention to that. I love the AM and PMs that they send out and the Commercial Real Estate Weekly, just trying to keep a pulse on the market. And then if there's something in there that is specific to my industry, then I'm able to dig into it and uncover some of the details. So just trying to keep in touch with that. And then lastly, I was thinking was my kids' schedules. I don't know, that it really doesn't have as much impact on the business, but my wife and I have three kids that are very active in both sports and cheer and all those things. And we're constantly running in different directions.
We'll keep you amazingly busy, I am certain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tyler, I've asked lots of questions. What's one question I did not ask that I should have asked?
Well, I think I just touched on, we didn't talk about family much.
No, we didn't.
Right. I talked about my growing up and my parents and older brothers, but yeah, so married to 2007. So, 17 years, is that right?
Yeah.
17 years. So I've been married for 17 years. I have a 14-year-old daughter who's in 8th grade. She just finished her first season of 8th grade girls basketball. So that's been a lot of fun seeing that.
So much fun.
Yeah. I was able to coach her for the first 7 years during that time period. So that was great. She's now moved on from dad's coaching to play for All Iowa Tack out of Ames there. So it's been fun to see that transition as well. But and I have an 11-year-old son who is also in basketball, but loves football, basketball, trying to get him more into golf. He likes to go out and play with dad, but he doesn't really want to put the time or energy into getting, making himself a better player. He just likes to go out and have fun, which, there's nothing wrong with that. But, maybe I can get him a little more competitive.
Perhaps you've inspired him to let time do its thing.
Yep. And then my youngest 8-year-old she is the opposite of sports. She said, she's told us, Dad, I don't want to play sports because I don't want to sweat. She is a princess. She loves hair and nails and makeup and all that fun stuff. And she is into cheer. It's her favorite, but she's a lot of fun. All three kids are very different, but just makes life enjoyable, getting to see them in their element and having fun and growing up. So
there's certainly the reason to do all of it.
Yes.
During the day.
Absolutely.
Tyler, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to connect up here to chat. For people who want to find you, they want to follow you, they want to connect with you, where can they go? What should they do?
Yeah. CBRE.com is our website, our company website. I have a LinkedIn profile. I think it's Tyler-Dingel is my LinkedIn. I think I probably we'll share those.
We'll have the links below in the show notes, everybody.
So I've got a Twitter that I don't really post much on, but I try to keep up with what's going on out there. And also have Facebook, which seems more friends and family and keeping up with where they're at.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. I've learned a lot. This is it's quite a story, quite a journey over 20 years to get to where you guys are at, and I can't wait to have you back on in a year or so, and let's talk about all the things that have changed and evolved in the industry, but also inside your business and what you got going on. So I appreciate you being here, Tal.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the show, may I ask a favor of you? Naturally, subscribe so you never miss an episode. But would you rate and leave an honest written review on Apple Podcasts? It does a lot for us here at the show, and I appreciate reading your thoughts. Great guests make for a great show. If you know of another Iowan who would be a great guest, or you yourself have interest in being a guest, well, get on our radar. Visit Investing in Iowa to fill out an application or recommend a guest. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one, go to LegacyImpactInvestors.com. Click on the Invest With Us button in the top right corner, and there you can pick a time for the two of us to get on the calendar and connect. Until next time, keep investing in Iowa.